In addition to its political and social effects, Brexit also has an impact on the transfers of young footballers. EU citizens under the age of 18 are no longer allowed to switch to British clubs. Had the new rules for transfers brought about by Brexit been in place 10 years ago, German international Serge Gnabry might never have played in England. His formative years at Arsenal helped the teenager at the time to become who he is now, one of the best attacking players in the world. His road to fame is one that has now been close to young European talent since Britain left the European Union. British clubs used to be able to sign EU citizens between the ages of 16 and 18 with parental permission, as Arsenal did with Gnabry. These rules now only apply to UK players. If British clubs want to sign players from the EU, they have to wait until they are 18 years old. In addition, they are only allowed to sign 6 EU players between the ages of 18 and 21 per year. In addition, these players must meet certain criteria. This includes whether they have played internationally and in which league they played. And it's not just players who are affected. The coaches are also subject to the point system, which, for example, would have prevented the signing of David Wagner at Huddersfield 2015 and Daniel Farke at Norwich in 2017, as both came to England directly from the Borussia Dortmund reserve team. However, the changes could be good news for UK talent. The new Brexit rules limit the opportunities for EU players who would have come to England. But they also create opportunities for players who would not have qualified beforehand, says Doran Salomon from CAA base to the Deutsche Welle. The London-based player agency represents many top players, including the South Korean Heung-min Son, who previously played in Hamburg and Leverkusen and is now under contract with Tottenham Hotspur. English clubs will try to find undiscovered talent in parts of the British Isles that they didn't pay much attention to before, especially Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. On the other hand, this creates better conditions for clubs from the EU with good young talent centres. They are now in a stronger position to hold on to their best talent until they are at least 18 years old, without fear of these players being poached by the wealthy English clubs. One of these players is Bayer Leverkusen's up-and-coming star Florian Wirtz. The 17-year-old is the greatest young talent at the Leverkusen Academy since Kai Havertz, who moved to Chelsea for 80 million euros last year. According to the new rules, Wirtz is currently not allowed to switch to an English club. Of course, we don't want to sell our best talent when they are 16, 17 or 18 years old. That's very clear, Leverkusen sporting director Simon Rolfes told the Deutsche Welle. Now that English clubs can't buy a young player until he's 18, that's obviously a good thing for us. And Rolfes predicts the rule change will mean that English clubs will no longer attract as many youth players from Germany, Scandinavia, the Netherlands, and so on as in recent years. This path is no longer possible, and it will be the entire transfer situation of youth players in Europe. And it will change it, and not in a bad way for us. The new rules will change the dynamics of how and from which parts of the world UK clubs attract young talent. Clubs at the bottom of the Premier League table and in England's second and third division will be more affected, as many of these clubs have based their transfer strategies on signing EU players from less prestigious European leagues. This applies to the clubs with smaller budgets and the championship clubs, which have even more need to look for added value in the market and who used to look for EU players in countries like Poland or Greece. These players now have almost no chance to play in England, says Salomon. The clubs that cannot fill the talent gap with British players may look to countries outside the EU, such as South America, where continental club competitions like the Copa Libertadores and the Copa Sudamericana are rated relatively highly under the England FA's new point system. In the past, good players from countries like Mexico, Brazil, Argentina and Russia who didn't have an EU passport couldn't come to England to play unless they were already top players with international experience, explained Salomon. Many of these players should now qualify more easily under the new rules. So the question is, which clubs will recognize this and adapt their scouting networks to find the best talent outside the EU? It is quite possible that we will have an influx from South and Central American players to the UK. Of course, Premier League clubs have the knowledge and resources to not only minimize the negative effects of these rules and those changes, but strategically circumvent them. Brighton and Leicester, for example, have already entered into partnerships with the Belgian second division clubs Union Saint-Gilloise and OHA Leuven. In the Brexit era, these alliances will allow English clubs to sign EU players from their partner club before they turn 18 and park them there until they have experience to play in England. The new regulations will certainly lead to a race for the best adults from the EU. And a club like Leverkusen could struggle even more with the interest of English clubs and players in the Wirtz and Harvards categories. I would expect English clubs to be very eager to sign the best 18-year-olds from the EU and willing to pay potentially big bucks to get them, said Salomon. I think a market will open up for players who are about to turn 18. That's going to be quite interesting. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel and to my other channels. I'll see you in my next video. Auf Wiedersehen.